Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad that you are here for session 2. In the last session, we laid the foundation, but today we're really going to get into doing the work. This session is going to be about budgeting. I know budgeting can feel restrictive and overwhelming, and for some people it might even be triggering. I want you to shift your perspective today, because a budget is not about restricting your life, it's actually about taking control. So I want you to think about that when you approach today's session. The truth is, if we don't tell our money where to go, then our money will go where it wants to go. Then you'll end up at the end of the month wondering, where did my money go? And if that's you, then you'll understand what I mean. This session, we are not going to just talk about budgeting, we're going to actually do the work. I'm going to talk you through how to budget effectively and introduce you to something called a spending tracker, which you're going to do for the next 7 days. I encourage you, be honest. Really take the plunge with this. This is like holding up a mirror and understanding where you are. I explain it all in the course. Enjoy the ride. Remember, the ultimate objective is financial freedom. So this is a no judgment zone. So it's not about looking at mistakes that have already been made because there's nothing you can do about it. It's about learning and understanding your spending habits so that you can make intentional changes that are going to help you moving forward. So when I say track everything, that does mean everything. That means the odd £2 here and £1 here if you're in the UK, or $1 or $2, because they all add up. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the course, then please feel free to comment below, to like and subscribe, and share this with someone who this may help. If you're ready to get started, then let's go. We've considered the importance of writing things down. And it is key to remember that seeking the kingdom does not mean only having faith and not taking action, because it's confirmed in 2 James 14 verse 26, where James states faith without works is dead. So this course will explore righteous kingdom principles laid out by Jesus, and these will form the basis of the ideas and the tools that we're going to explore over the coming sessions. So one of the things that God revealed to me when I was studying this subject is that wealth comes with responsibility. So it's no point asking God to provide increase if we can't manage what we already have. And to find financial freedom, we have a requirement to become good stewards, which is primarily what this course is about. Luke 16 verse 10 to 12 states, "He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. He who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. Therefore, if you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in what is another man's, who will give you what is your own?" So some of us on the call may feel like we haven't actually got that much to manage. However, it is vital that we become stewards of what we have, because that's when you will receive more. It doesn't matter how much you have. This course is still relevant to you, because being a steward is irrelevant of how much you have. There is a parable that Jesus told, and he highlighted these principles, and it's found in Matthew 25 verse 14 to 30 if you want to look it up. And there's also another parable in Luke 19 verse 11 to 26. I would encourage you to read both parables. We're going to read the parable of the talents today. It reads as follows. "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country." Notice it said the kingdom of heaven. "Who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. To each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on the journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded and made another 5 talents. And he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought the 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. And his Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. And his Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered him and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him, give it to the one who has 10 talents, for to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And both of the parables confirm that what we've been given, we have a duty to increase. And this session isn't going to be about that, but that is part of the course. But increase cannot happen by spending or wasting our resources. And the parable also confirms that how we manage our resources will determine how much more we will be given. So what this means is it doesn't matter how much prayer, fasting, etc. takes place. He will not give us what can harm us or more than we can cope with. Now, we might be tempted to say, Lord, but if you give me more, I won't be harmed. Actually, then it will be easier to do what you're asking me to do. Galatians 6 verse 7 tell me that God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, he will reap. So if you sow poor management of your resources, then you will reap poverty. See, the scripture we just read confirms that if you sow good management of resources, you will reap increase. And gaining wealth without understanding can actually be very dangerous, and it doesn't tend to yield positive results. Proverbs 13:11 highlights the dangers of wealth gained quickly or before you're ready for it. And it reads, Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. And to prove this fact, there are some examples of people. And I've heard people say that, I wish I could win the lottery. I wish I could win the lottery. I hear lots of people say that. But actually, people who have won the lottery, not all of it is a good tale. So in 2002, a man named Jack Whittaker won $314 million. He spent all of the money and was known to say that his life was cursed. His wife left him, his house burned down, he got in trouble with the law, he lost a daughter to cancer and a granddaughter to drugs, and he died at the age of 72 in 2020. Another couple, Lara and Roger Griffiths, won $2.19 million. Years later, they have $10 left and both have to work to make ends meet. 5 years after that, a man named David Lee Edwards won $27 million. He was penniless and living in a shed with his wife, and he died broke in hospice care at age 58. But to bring it closer to home and people that actually you might be more familiar with, MC Hammer. In the 1990s, MC Hammer was worth over 30 million. Despite the fame and success, he went bankrupt within years. He had a staff of 200 people, luxury homes, and a lifestyle that outpaced his income. He later admitted that he didn't have proper financial guidance, and he tried to help too many people too quickly. And then there's an NBA star you may know called Antoine Walker. He earned over 108 million during his basketball career. Within 2 years of retiring, he had filed for bankruptcy. He supported dozens of family and friends and lived beyond his means. He now teaches financial literacy to young athletes and saying it's not about how much you make, it's about how you manage it. And lastly, we all know this person, Mike Tyson. He earned $400 million during his career. By 2003, he was bankrupt. Lavish spending, poor financial advice, and a lack of planning drained his fortune. Tyson later said, I don't understand money. It was gone before I could think. These are just a few stories that prove that scripture. And sadly, there are so many more. I couldn't obviously go through all of them. But when I researched it, there were so many. But what these examples do show is that financial wealth without good management does not lead to happiness or freedom, and therefore it is not part of the kingdom's plan. So either we get serious about money management and become financially free, or not and reap a life of worry and less than God's provision. Because Jesus clearly said, if you cannot manage little, then how can he trust you with much? But the good news is that throughout this course, we're going to concentrate on good money management. So when the Lord blesses you, you are ready and able to manage it. So last week, we explored what financial freedom looks like to you. And I hope that you have had a chance to revisit the vision and to remind yourselves why you are here. I would encourage you to continue to revisit and visualize your version of financial freedom. That is going to act as a motivator to the actions that you will take over the coming sessions. There's going to be some bits that I'm going to need you to do. But before we go on to that, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun. And I am going to, if you can grab a bit of pen and paper, if you haven't already got it, which you should have, but if you haven't, just a bit of pen and paper, you're going to need to write down the answers. I am going to give you what is called a financial personality quiz. So when it comes to finances, we all have money personalities, and that shapes how we spend, save, and react to our finances. Now, none of them are bad on this quiz, by the way. So there's not like a you get a prize and you don't get a prize. But if we don't recognize them, then quietly they can sabotage our goals. So it's a bit of fun, nothing too serious, and it is also anonymous. However, at the end, I might ask you to put your personality in the chat if you want to. You don't have to, but sometimes it's quite fun to see what personalities people have. So there's 10 questions, and you're just going to note down your most suited answer. Question number 1. I'll read the question and you can just choose the answer that suits you. You get paid. What is the first thing you do? Is it A, B, C, or D?
B.
And just write down the letter. You don't have to say it. You can just write it down. Question 2. When you go to the supermarket, do you? And then there's 4 different answers. So A, I always buy more than planned. Snacks just call to me. Or B, I've got a list and I stick to it religiously. C, I tend to grab things for others and think they'll like this. Or D, I rush in, grab what I remember and hope for the best. Which one is you? So question 3, how do you feel about budgeting? So A, restrictive, it's like being on a financial diet. B, empowering, it helps me feel safe and in control. C, unnecessary, I just go with the flow and give when needed. Or D, overwhelming, I'll start one day, just not today. Number 4, when you get an unexpected bill, do you A, panic, pay it, then comfort yourself with a treat? B, adjust my numbers, move money around and handle it? C, try to help someone else even if I'm struggling too? Or D, pretend I didn't see it until reminders come through? Remember, this is anonymous. You're not going to share your answers to these questions, so be as honest as you can. Number 5, your phone pings, sale 50% off. Do you A, click immediately, I can't miss a bargain? B, delete it, I didn't plan to spend, so I'm not? C, think, ooh, maybe I'll get something for a friend? D, think about it for days but never actually decide? Number 6, you're invited to a friend's birthday dinner. That's a bit pricey. Do you A, I'll go, I don't want to miss out? B, check my budget first and decide logically? C, offer to help organize or contribute even more? Or D, say I'll confirm later and probably forget to RSVP? Number 7, when you look at your banking app, your first thought is A, how did I spend that much? B, good, everything adds up. C, maybe I should send someone a little gift. Or D, I'll check it later, maybe next week. And number 8, your approach to saving is A, I'll save what's left, though there's usually nothing left. B, I save before I spend always. C, I'd rather help someone else first, saving comes second. Or D, to save, but I forget or avoid it. Number 9, when you dream about financial freedom, what's the first image you see? Shopping or traveling without guilt? B, my spreadsheet fully balanced, investments on track. C, being able to bless others freely. Or D, a life where I don't have to think about money at all. And last question now. Your reaction when someone suggests tracking every expense. A, that sounds exhausting, no thanks. B, already do it, color coded and everything. C, I could do it if someone else needs help with theirs too. D, I'll download the app and probably forget to use it. So in the chat, I want you to see how many A's you've got, how many B's, how many C's, and how many D's, and then put the one that has the most. If you've got a tie, then put both of them. So say you've got a tie of A's and B's, then put A and B. But if it's just one letter, then put that in the chat. And then we'll have a look at your personalities. Remember, there's no right or wrong with this. It's just a bit of fun. So I'm now going to share with you what this tells you about your personality. So B's and D's was the most common. So the spreadsheet queen and king, whoop, whoop, or the avoider. And some people are a bit of both. So it's kind of a bit of balance there, I guess. Organized, calm, and in control, but remember to have fun too. That's the spreadsheet queen and king. And then the avoider, easygoing, but knowledge is your new best friend, which is great. Love avoiders. They're great for this course as long as they don't stay avoiders. There was some C's, but not so many. Heart of gold, don't forget your own goals, which is really true. And then A, I don't think it was too many, but there was a couple. Life of the party, but your budget needs boundaries. So have a look at your answers and see where you sit. And do you think that reflects you as well? It's just a bit of fun. Maybe there's some truth in it. So you can note those down and see which one you are. Last week, we talked about mind mapping the things that are keeping you from achieving financial freedom. And these are the problems that we are going to solve during this course. What you can see on the screen is a completed one. It gives you an example of some common problems. These are ones that I always come across. You may have different ones, and that's absolutely fine. It's individual to you, but you may have some of these ones as well. Remember, writing it down is biblical. Studies show that writing things down help you to remember things better than typing or reading. So I know we all love to type, it's easier and so on, but please do try and write it down. So let's look at this particular example. So this person's got 3 specific problems. The first problem is they haven't got enough income to do the things they want to do, such as travel, tutor for children, new car, and own home. The second problem is they have a high amount of debt and they can't seem to escape the debt trap as emergencies keep arising. And then the third one is they don't get to spend enough time with the important people in their life. So these are the problems that are causing him or her to worry, which we know is against kingdom principles, confirmed from the mouth of Jesus. So we've defined our problems. We know the things getting in the way. What do we need to do next? And for that, I'm going to talk you through what I call the problem solving cycle. Some of you may have seen it. Number 1 is identify the problem. Now we've done that. If you've done your homework, that's what you've done. Your mind map has the problems. Number 2 is what we're going to move on today, analyze the problem. And then number 3 is develop a solution. And there may be more than one solution that you need to do. Step number 4 is to actually do it, to implement the solution. Step number 5 is to evaluate whether that solution worked. And if it didn't, then you go back to the beginning and you may have to have a different solution because that didn't work. But also, once you've solved one of the problems, we then do the same with another. Some of them may cross paths and you may be solving 2 problems at the same time because the solution's the same that solves both problems. We hope that's the case. But if not, this is the cycle that we're going to be using. Today is all about analyzing the problem. Step number 2. To analyze the problem, we're going to use 2 documents. The first one is a budget planner. And I'm going to talk you through how you use these. The second one is what we call a spending diary. So I'm going to explain how to use them, and I'll also provide you with an example of completed ones so that it is 100% clear. Before I go through these documents, I just want to talk about why we're doing this, because often when I talk about budget planning, I don't see people get excited and jump around. Yay, I like doing budget planning, right? But it is the foundation of managing your money. And I cannot stress that enough. But don't just take my word for it. In the UK, recent research highlights that budgeting significantly influences financial stability. A study by the Financial Conduct Authority found that 39% of adults lack confidence in managing their money, with budgeting linked to greater financial control and less debt. And only about a third of adults in debt are actively budgeting. And those who do generally experience better outcomes, such as improved savings habits and reduced reliance on credit. Additional data from the Financial Wellbeing Survey by the Money and Pensions Service reveals that individuals who maintain a budget tend to have over £500 in accessible savings, while those who don't often report little to no emergency funds. In fact, roughly 11.5 million UK adults have less than £100 in savings, underscoring how budgeting can impact financial resilience. And then the last bit of confirmation is the government's financial education initiatives stress the importance of budgeting to help people avoid financial crisis and build security. So these findings all underscore the broader benefits of budgeting, and they all confirm that it promotes healthier financial habits and enhances long-term stability for many individuals across the UK. In my experience, there is not one of my clients who do not budget plan. It's also something that as a financial advisor, I do with clients. The only difference is that the wealthy may pay someone to do it, but they do it nonetheless. I cannot stress how important it is to you building wealth and building that foundation for financial freedom. I'm going to talk you through how you use it so that you can bring it alive for yourself. So let's start with the budget planner. So I will provide you with the paper budget planner. If you've got the workbook, it's in there. You've got, I think, about 12 or 13 of them. So you've got enough to last you a year. If anybody hasn't got the paper one, pen and paper will do fine. Or purchase the workbook if you prefer to have it all in one place. The bottom line is do the work. Here's an example of a completed budget planner. When I ask people to complete a budget planner, these are the common mistakes. Missing bits off, underestimating things or guessing things rather than confirming they are accurate. Last week, we talked about needing to do things differently. This may be one of those things that you need to do differently. The principle of analyzing your financial position is not just a financial practice, but also a biblical one. In Luke 14, verse 28 to 29, Jesus states, "For which of you intending to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" This is the exact same principle as budgeting, and it is a kingdom principle. Once you start to make this a habit, as with anything, it will become so much easier. But when you're completing this, please be honest with yourself. Step 2 is an analysis. The first one is recognizing the problem, but now we're going to analyze. How do we use our money? So that's really key. How do I complete this homework task? What I would suggest you do is you get 2 to 3 months bank statements to hand. And I want you to start by documenting those things that don't change, like your direct debits and your standing orders. And don't forget the things you pay yearly. For example, home insurance or car insurance, if you pay it yearly and you don't pay it monthly. Once you've done all of those things, I want you to go back and work out the spending on other things, such as food shopping, clothes shopping, ATM withdrawals, your tithes, offering. The key is not to miss anything and also to be honest. Don't miss one thing off. So what I tend to do is I print off the bank statement and cross it out so that I make sure I've counted everything on that bank statement. Now, I am conscious that Christmas obviously was a couple of months ago, so one of the bank statements will have Christmas in it, but Christmas happens every year. So if you know you spend X amount per a year on Christmas presents, that needs to be included, but you can divide that by 12, so you get an average. What we're trying to do is get some accuracy of what you spend across the year. Now, the reason I ask you to use multiple bank statements as it will show you the average spend for things that do vary from month to month. So I know, like, if you were on holiday, maybe you haven't spent as much on food, or maybe you spent more. These things vary month to month, but I want you to work out the average. And if that average looks unrealistic, then make sure that it is realistic. So if it's too low, you need to increase it, but be honest. Now, hopefully this all makes sense. What does this mean? This is what we call knowing your numbers, or the beginning of knowing your numbers. In the financial world, you will not find a successful businessman or woman who doesn't know their numbers or pay someone else to know their numbers. Arguably, paying someone to know your numbers can lead you into problems. Rihanna found that out when her accountant had siphoned off quite a bit of money. There's many celebrities who have found that out. So even the wealthy can come unstuck if they don't know their numbers. This is step one of your homework, doing your budget planner. I would encourage you to take some time out, whether it's in your lunch break. I'd rather you do it when it's just you and you can just concentrate on your budget, because once you've done it, you'll find it is so much easier moving forward because you've done it, and then you'll only need to update if any of the figures change. The next document that you're going to complete, and this is the one I get the most feedback on. This is something you're going to do for the next 7 days. So starting from tomorrow or today, if you want to, and it's called a spending diary. This will not take you long at all. I want you to do it for 7 days, and I want you to document your daily spending. What you don't include on this is any of your regular direct debits or standing orders, because they'll be on your budget planner. What this is all about is that ad hoc spending. So things such as the nail shop, buying clothes, shoes, makeup, cologne, eating out, takeaways, coffees, lunch, etc. Those things that add up, but we don't really monitor them. I recommend you complete it daily. Don't wait till the end of the week. Do it every day. It could be during your lunch break if you're at work. It will take you no longer than 10 to 15 minutes, if that at the most, depending on how you spend. What I want you to do is when you write those things down, I want you to highlight whether it is a need or a want. So when you're looking at those items, you're going to consider, is it a need or is it a want? And you can see that on the example. Many people do not analyze their spending in this way. And what that means is it leads to overspending or poor money management. And I've seen it so many times, so I know that definitely is the case. It is critical that you complete it accurately. If you don't, then it's only yourself that you'll be hiding it from. This is still part of that analysis. We're trying to understand what are your habits, what are the things that you're doing. I've also found that when people have done this thoroughly, they've actually been able to cancel some subscriptions, find cheaper deals, all sorts of things just by doing this exercise and spending some time on their finances, which ultimately is the reason that causes the most worry, but we spend a less amount of time analyzing it. Last week, we talked about the two levers, and I said you've got to pull one or both of them. On your journey to becoming financially free, you are either going to be looking to increase what's coming in, or you're going to be looking to decrease what's going out. When we are looking at the budget planner and the spending tracker, primarily, we're going to be looking at lever number one, which is decreasing what's going out. We're going to do a bit of a group task. I gave you some examples, and I've now got them on the screen. I want you to take a couple of minutes, just have a look at both documents. Think about this person and ways that you might tell them to reduce their outgoings, or what are the things you notice about these documents. Now, for the purpose of this exercise, I have only provided 4 days spending tracker because I couldn't fit any more days on the screen. but it still allows you to do some analysis. Obviously, with your own, you will have 7, but also it will mean more to you because it's your own spending. So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to have a look through that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to put in the chat something you feel that this person might want to consider to reduce their outgoings. So I'll tell you the areas that I've got. Lunch spending, shoes, Amazon, coffee, cinema, dining out and socializing are the areas that need looking at. Now, does that mean stop all of that and don't do none of that? Absolutely not. So we're going to, when you're looking at this, which of these wants can be reduced? Now, it depends on what your circumstances are. If you've got a need, i.e., you need to build an emergency fund or you need to pay off debt, then there's going to be some sacrifice. And it may be short term. Hopefully, it will be because you'll be financially free. So sometimes sacrifice may need to take place, and it may mean some of those fun things you can't do all the time. The key differentiating between need and want is that needs are harder to adjust, but wants have flexibility. So when you're honest completing these documents, you can then make meaningful changes. I'm not going to dictate to you what those changes are. I'm going to give you some suggestions on what you might want to consider when you're doing your analysis. However, this is yours, and it just depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to repay debt, which we'll talk about next week, you may decide that actually I'm going to sacrifice something because I want to get rid of this debt really quickly. Or if you're trying to build up to buy a home, for example, the decisions you make will determine how quickly you get to your goals. But I would definitely not suggest cutting all of those things out. But you can make smarter choices. So let's have a look at some of the ways that we could change or analyze our spending. So once you've completed your budget planner and your spending tracker, I want you to carry out this same exercise, but in more detail. So the same that I've just got you to do, that's what you're going to do on your own. And I want you to think about whether you can reduce your outgoings either permanently or temporarily, depending on what those things are. This is absolutely not about taking away enjoyment because you won't do it. You won't stick at it. It is about becoming more financially astute. There are decisions that I make in my financial journey because of my goals, but there are some that are non-negotiable and I keep those in. As your wealth increases, you will find that you will be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. However, the principles of good money management will have to become habits. And those habits are about analysis and making changes. So I've given you a few suggestions on the screen. I'll read those out for those that can't see them. They might be too small. But this isn't an exhaustive list. This is just some things that you may want to consider. Reducing non-essential spending, such as eating out and clothes shopping. Notice I said reducing, not getting rid of. Look at your utility providers. Examine your household bills and switch to cheaper providers and products where possible. Find cheaper gas and electricity and water. Review your mobile and broadband plans. Sometimes we stay on those for ages. I have seen people paying hundreds of pounds for plans that they could get cheaper. And check for more affordable packages, or even just phone your current provider and negotiate a better deal. You'll be surprised what they can do. Cancel unused subscriptions. This is the one I hear all the time, is those small little subscriptions that add up, like magazines, streaming services, gyms that you don't use. Grocery costs. Buy in bulk, switch to supermarket brands, and avoid shopping when hungry, because that's always impulse purchase. Meal plan and batch cooking. I've had a few of the people attending this course have really taken this one on, and they love it. Planning their meals, preparing large batches, it reduces food waste, but also saves on dining out. The other thing you probably have seen a lot of people talk about is the no spend challenge. So you dedicate a period where you only spend on essentials. You cannot spend on anything else during that period. I've known people to do it for a year, which is a lot, but that's usually when people have become really disciplined. But if you're not there yet, then try it for a week. Try it for 2 weeks. Car insurance comparison sites as well. Don't forget your insurances. Reducing clothing purchases. So trying like a capsule wardrobe with versatile pieces to reduce the need for frequent purchases. So buying quality rather than quantity. And then if you have extra space, if you're lucky enough to have an extra room, don't forget that you can rent that out for additional income. If you've got a garage or a parking space and you're near a train station or anything like that, there are platforms that you can rent that if you're not using it and actually get an income, especially if you're near a train station. And there's apps that do all the work for you. You literally just put the details on the app and follow the instructions, and then they find the people who want to rent it. Or if you're near like a stadium like Wembley or the O2 or anything like that. So far, we have defined the problems via your mind maps, which we did last week. The next step is this homework, which is to complete your budget planner and your spending tracker, which is ground zero. You can't really go anywhere without that. All of my clients have to do this, irrelevant of how much they earn, because the Financial Conduct Authority say we have to know our clients well. And these are one of the things that we have to know is what they spend their money on. So this is a good practice to develop. And once you've done it once, it's so much easier because you're only updating after that. Once you've done that, you've analyzed your position. Hopefully, you will now start to have some actionable things that you can do. The same way we looked at the examples on screen, you'll have some of those thoughts, but they'll be personal to you. Assume one of your actions are, for example, to bring packed lunches to work instead of eating out. In the action column, I'll just show you that here, which is this first one. You would put exactly what you're going to do. By when, you're going to put when you are going to start doing this. And then in the resources or help needed column, which is this column, you may put go shopping and buy the necessary things for your packed lunch. And then the expected outcome should be how much you expect to save by doing this. Sometimes it really helps to see that. I've seen people write £50 and get really excited, like, I'm going to save £50 in a week because I've been spending £10 on takeaways every day for lunch. So right in there, your expected outcome, how much are you going to save? And then this is the bit that you mustn't forget is what is your reward for doing that? Even if it's something small, like your favorite chocolate bar, whatever it is, give yourself a reward. Even the cinema, it could be. If you can get one of those free tickets, it doesn't cost you anything. Now, these actions may progress. I said last week that the action plan is an ongoing document, so don't feel like you do it once and you don't ever change it. They may change as you progress through this course and even after, so don't worry, this is just the start. But your action plans are working documents where you put what you are going to do. And hopefully, as you move on in your journey, they will change because you'll be looking at more building rather than paying off and things like that. Your circumstances will change. Here's an example of a completed action plan using one of the problems mentioned earlier. This person has a high amount of debts, and they said they couldn't seem to escape the debt trap as emergencies kept arising. So that was their problem. So one of their goals was to build up an emergency fund, which is the opposite of the problem, if you remember. So to build up an emergency fund for the future, this person's completed their budget planner and spending tracker, and they've realized they've got some money they can put towards this problem. And their action is therefore to open a savings account here. I've put high interest, but any savings account to begin with will do. And to save £50 per month, which is the amount once they've done their budget planner that they can afford. And to set up a standing order so it's automated. They don't have to keep remembering to do it each month. And it will be paid into that savings account. They may also add another action to reduce their debt, but this action was about building up an emergency fund because they said emergencies kept arising. Your action plans will be working documents, but these are your commitments to what you're going to do. And as you go through the course, you'll have different actions that you're going to do. And some of them you might even complete during the course. As you can see, in order to achieve your goals, there are likely to be more than one action that needs to be taken. And that's the reason I said do not do more than 5 of those problems because I want it to be manageable. But ultimately, the key is to do the work. This is just a place that you can go and say, what did I say I was going to do? Remind yourself of the things you're going to do and stick to them. So hopefully that all makes sense. Just to summarize today's session, we revisited the last session and just reminded ourselves of the foundational scripture. We talked about our financial freedom vision, and I'm hoping that's at the forefront of your mind. So when you're thinking about, why am I doing this? You're remembering, oh yeah, because that's what I want to achieve. We've talked about the evidence that confirms budget planning is both biblical and financially sound. We also defined the problems that are stopping us from achieving our financial freedom, and the goals were the opposite of the problems. We talked about the problem-solving model, and we're at the analysis stage. So we're now analyzing our financial position. We've talked about how to complete the budget planner and the spending tracker, and hopefully you know how, and that all makes sense. And also, once you've completed it, how to analyze it yourself. Next week, I will open the floor for you to discuss any of your findings if you want to, or even things you're not sure about. And then we discussed also how to use that analysis to develop your action plan, which is the example that I gave. As a reminder, you've got 3 tasks that you're going to do this week. You're going to complete your budget planner template. You're going to do your 7-day spending tracker. And then once you've completed those, you're going to analyze them and just come up with some actions that you feel are doable to reduce your outgoings on those documents. Even if it reduces by £5, there is no amounts on this course. It's about doing the work. The next session, we'll be talking about debt management. The reason that this is really important is because once you've done the budget planner, and if you do have debts, how you repay those debts is going to be critical. I had a client that I worked with, and she is now debt-free, and we did work a year ago. She didn't have a lot of debt, but she's now debt-free, and it was such a great feeling for us to go through her budget planner and actually now start to talk about what she's going to do with that extra money that she was spending on those debts. That is where I believe everyone can get to. It is not a race. There is no time scale on this. Some people it will be 1 year, some people it might be 5 years. It depends on your circumstances. The key is that we make those changes. So thank you for today, and I hope that it has all been clear. I'll just hand back to you, Rev.
Thank you, everybody, for being on the platform tonight. Remember what I said, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So we're all going to be looking at that. And I know that as you go through this process, the Lord is going to be with you. So, Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for everyone that was on the platform. Pray you'll bless them and pray you'll be with them. And may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with each and every one of you as you go through the following week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well done for making it through this session. This one really requires honesty, and that's not always easy. And you've got your homework tasks. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. Next step is simple. Complete your budget planner. Take that time. You deserve it. Remember to pull out your bank statements and be honest. We're not using any roundups or any approximates. We're using exacts. We're really going to get down to the nitty-gritty of our spending habits. And then don't forget your 7-day spending diary. Take a little bit of time each day just to jot down those things that you are spending your money on. The tools to do these activities are in your workbooks. If you haven't yet purchased your workbook, then feel free to use the link below to do so. Or alternatively, just print out the free PDF. The bottom line is doing the work, not the tools that you use. Remember, this isn't about judgment. It's about awareness to change. You cannot change what you can't see. I would love to hear from you. Once you've completed the work, tell me what surprised you. What did you learn about your spending habits? Because there may be some insight that could help others. I'm excited to hear your comments. Please do share them. Like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, share the video with someone that you think that this would help. I look forward to seeing you in the next session. And trust me, doing this work is more powerful than you can even imagine. By the end of this course, you will be well on your way to financial freedom. God bless.